need to order any items from the public? If not, entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. President, if there's no modifications or changes, I move we approve the agenda for Thursday, April the 1st, 2021.
Have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? If not, all
All in favor?
in favor? I'm trying to read an email from one of our board.
Focus.
You know. All in favor, say aye. All right.
You want a minute to read your email?
Well, yeah, please, because I think
Go
it's a
ahead.
pretty important.
Take it. We'll sit here and talk amongst ourselves.
All right.
Old age catching up. Listen to
Prevagen.
that.
I'd recommend Prevagen.
Tim
All
said
right.
he don't know nothing about
Moving on. Any questions on the purchase order? All right. Internal budget revisions. There is none, Mr. Davis?
No, sir, none today.
We have some change in status. We have a new hire recommendation received from Mike Lang, Chief Court Marshal, for Ronald Avey as a Deputy Court Marshal with an annual salary of $30,844, effective April the 2nd, 2021.
Mr. President, as you're speaking about the court martial service, I received a phone call, and this reminded me when you said that, about how well organized that she got called for jury duty, and she wanted me to relay to you all and the court marshals about how well organized and how well prepared that whole building was over there, and she was duly impressed and wanted me to send her thank yous to you all. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that. No. New hire recommendation also received from the Honorable Larry Hess, Assessor for Caroline Butler, as a GIS IT analysis with an annual salary of $47,000, effective March 29th, 2021. Change in status received from the Honorable Sheriff Nathan Harmon for Deborah McLaughlin. She transferring from clerk to an administrative assistant / dispatcher. Her salary will be going from $26,771 to $28,945, effective April 1st, 2021. Letter of resignation received from the Sheriff's Office for the Deputy Devin Moores, effective March 30th, 2021. And that concludes our change in status. Any questions on those? We have minutes for March the 18th, 2021. Councilperson Barnhart was not present. Need a motion to approve those minutes or changes?
So moved, Mr. President.
Have a motion on the floor and have a second. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Probably two.
Abstain, just, right?
Abstain, you mean?
Yeah, whatever.
Whatever.
All right. Right now for the county council calendars, we will be here in the chambers on the 8th, next Thursday at 9:30 a.m. And you have town hall tonight at Marlowe Rear Club at 6:30?
6:30
Okay.
at the Marlowe Riverton for the Potomac District. And by the way, I believe that anybody that has Facebook is going to get a tag on that. So if you could share that, please do that.
All right. Boards and commissions, we have nothing the remainder of this week, but next week on Monday the 5th, we have a 6 p.m. Planning Commission. Tuesday the 6th, 5 p.m. Sewer District, 6 p.m. Stormwater District. Thursday the 8th, we have a 6:30 p.m. Fire Board. Any changes or corrections on boards and commissions? We have an order establishing Fund 207, American Rescue Plan Act 2021. Mr. Davis, this is the one that the auditor's office says we need to set up. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. We have been notified that we will be getting some of the second round of stimulus money. Not exactly sure how much it's going to be definitively yet, but we are starting to get some guidelines, and this was one of the very first things that the state auditor's office said we had to do is set up a special revenue fund titled the American Rescue Act 2021, and it's established it as Fund 207. So within 30 days, we should get half of what they project us to.
Within 30 days.
Within 30 days.
And it's an interest-bearing account. That's gonna be pretty good.
It is.
Well, the good thing is, the Senator Manchin had a lot to do with that, and just want to say thank you. And I mean, if we're going to distribute money and throughout the nation, it's good to know that West Virginia and Berkeley County is getting their fair share. And what I like about this one is it's coming directly to us,
Correct.
and that's the first time that I've known in 10 years that that's happened.
And it will be treated, and we're already subject to single audit because we receive over $750,000 federal grant money. But this will probably put every county, because this has to be treated as a 322 source revenue, which is a federal grant revenue. So probably every county in the state this year will become will have to have a single audit done. So we have not been given guidelines on how the money should be spent.
Right.
So
It needs to be fully spent out by the end of 2024, if I think.
2024 by December 31st, 2024.
Right.
Or committed, spent or committed.
Right. Okay. Any other questions on Fund 207? If not, we have a bond release for Ben Shoal Construction, Goldfinch Meadows, Phase 1, filed number 2012-044. Engineering Department has made that recommendation. We have a bond release for Ben Shoal Construction, Goldfinch Meadows, Phase 2, file number 2102-044. Engineering has made that recommendation.
Where is Goldfinch Meadows?
Goldfinch Meadows is there where the VA on Old 9,
Mm-hmm.
Old 15,
Those
Townhouses.
townhouses across the Dollar General.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for Dirk? We have a bond reduction for Panhandle Builders and Excavating, Brattle Creek Phase 6, Section 1, file number 021-13, lots 419 through 436 and 474 through 476. Any Engineering Department has made that recommendation. Any questions for Dirk on that one? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Any nays? Motion passes. All right, next on our agenda, thank you, Dirk, is the assessor. We have two personal property tax exonerations due to office error, taxpayer error, I'm sorry. And then we do have some for office error as well.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
We do have two this week for taxpayer error, and for the reasons that's listed there. The one for CHN, or CNH, rather, Capital American, they reported that on their return, and of course, they wrote up the exoneration and sent it in, but it was on their return for 2020. And so we had to put it on there. Well, they had to be taxed.
Right.
So we had to call the taxpayer error. But just for those two, we got $2,616.25.
Entertain a motion on the two personal property tax exonerations due to taxpayer error.
Mr. President, I move to accept the two taxpayer error exonerations in the amount of $2616.55.
All right. We
I'll
have a
second that motion.
motion on the floor and a second. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor say aye. Anyone, any nays? Nay. All right, the motion fails.
Thank you. The only other thing we had to do two office error, personal property exonerations for those reasons listed for just $137.39.
All right, we have two personal property tax exonerations due to office error.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to approve the two tax exonerations.
I'll second that.
For $137.39, and I think Jim's going to second.
That sounds pretty convincing. Yeah, we have a motion, then we have a second. Actually, I should say we have a second, then we have a motion.
Exactly.
All right. Any discussion on that motion? If not, all in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you. I'll have one of these guys.
No, you won't. It's April Fool's.
Good cup of coffee, man.
Yep.
All right, board meeting reports, Mr. Barnhart.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I had a Board of Health meeting, Zoom, of course, and the magic word is COVID, COVID, COVID. They're working 14-hour days, I think, 4 days a week, and then 8 hours on Saturday. And the overtime is like $30,000 a week to pay all these people, and they're getting a little behind in their clinical and environmental.
I
You
know
think?
that.
Just a little? How much
Just-
is a little?
They didn't really say, but that's,
Well,
It's-
I have very good information that if you ask for a piece of paper,
Yeah.
you got to turn around and walk over and print it out of a file. It's 30 days to get a piece of paper.
well, Dr. McLaughlin has now ordered that one nurse and one sanitarian be in the office at all times. So they're trying to address that, but with the clinical the COVID vaccinations are, of course, take top
Yeah.
dollar, and they will probably for another couple of weeks until somebody else, hopefully, relieves the pressure. But then again, the governor has said everybody can get it now, so I don't know how that's going to transpire.
About how many people's gotten the shot so far? You have any idea?
In Berkeley County,
Yeah. I
I
guess.
guess close to 40.
Me and Jim got ours. Alan's got his. Heck,
Yeah.
with the rest of them.
Yeah.
Mine was rabies in December.
Well, I had that a couple of years ago. So that's pretty much it, and they're trying to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Mr. Delier.
Yeah, I didn't have any meetings. I just spent a long period of time at the health department trying to get paperwork. And still
Yeah.
don't have it.
Well, with all that said, I understand the concern, and I did express those concerns to Mr. Bill Kearns, but understood that they are working tremendous hours.
Yeah.
So, it's a tough spot to be in, and they'll continue to do the best they can.
Patience is a virtue.
Yeah, but we still got to.
What's that? Yeah, I was at an executive committee meeting, so.
You want to take a repeated meeting.
Yeah, I did have, I have meetings all the time.
You're kind of in a hot seat, It used to be 15 minutes of discussion about what. Now you're down to a minute.
I know, but if you take it all the time, it took all that time, and then I go less, we can average it out to equal what you usually do.
Vice President Whitaker, moving on.
No meetings to report on.
All right. Councilperson Gokenhour?
Yes, sir. After last Thursday's meeting, of course, the governor was in town. And on my way home, I think, I wonder if he's still there. So I swung in at the Holiday Inn and had an opportunity to welcome the governor to Berkeley County and thank him for coming here. Also thank him for his leadership with the COVID-19 across the state. And he said, well, you guys are doing really well down here. He said, you all are the model for the rest of the state. And I said, well, I understand that, sir, but we also need a little help. So I said, any way you can help us, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
So I didn't want him to be here without somebody from the county to say, hey, welcome.
Right.
So I just took it a minute. But then yesterday, I had a home consortium meeting. Of course, on housing, we know there's all a limited inventory. There are a lot of buyers. Rates are still low, obviously, and the appraisals are being challenged now. They're starting to have some trouble with it because of the upbidding on the real estate prices.
Mainly materials, what it is. I mean, it's quadrupled.
Well, not only materials, but people just upbidding and getting out of that appraisal range. It's creating them some problems. People will have to do 4 or 5 different contracts to finally land a house. They are considering through this program to start maybe perhaps looking at doing rehabs. They've never done that in the past, but that is a possibility. And I think really and truly, with you know, like with the older towns that we have around us, I think it'd be an excellent opportunity for people to be able to gather housing, you know, to a lot of the older homes in the cities and stuff. So I think that's pretty cool. And then, Habitat for Humanity has been recertified. That's an annual, operation for them to get recertified so they can do business.
All right.
Is the federal government offering COVID relief money to individuals wanting to build new houses due to the elevated cost of material?
I don't know.
Huh?
Would surprise me, but
I mean, why not? They're giving it for everything else.
Yeah.
That's a real problem.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy right now. It's got the easy way to take care of that is to creep the interest rate up, and the inflation rate will start going down.
They've said that the Woods has sold all of their empty lots, and Crest Creek is you know, they got buyers waiting for lots at Crest Creek. The old lots that are not even on the golf course and back in the middle of nowhere, and they've sold all those.
Yeah, the inventory is severely
Yeah.
low, and that's another reason why you get inflation.
Mm-hmm.
You
You know,
should,
the demand's greater than the supply.
you know, where New Route 9 goes off of 340, going into Virginia, right there's a big subdivision. I'm thinking it may be Horton that's building that.
On the right hand side.
Yeah, but there's already like 20 houses under tieback, one
Oh, yeah.
under siding, and that's within the last 2 months.
Yeah. Well, look at Cardinal down there on 901.
Yeah.
We had an ambulance authority meeting actually yesterday, and there were bids received at Thursday's meeting for the addition on South Berkeley's ambulance authority building, and so ZMM, the architect, reviewed it, and the committee reviewed it, and came back with a recommendation to award the bid to Callis to do that work. And they're trying to keep up with their fleet. We have some ambulances out there that's pushing 200,000 miles, and they decided to purchase 2 new ambulances as well yesterday. The ambulances, believe it or not, are $220,000 a piece nowadays.
Are they going to finance them, or are they buying them outright?
I think those are buying straight out.
Really?
I believe so.
Last ones, when I was there, we bought 128,000.
That's exactly what I said. I said I thought when I first got in there, it was about $120,000 per ambulance. So they went up $100,000 in 10 years, 10% a year. Now, along with that, there's some criteria that was added mandated from the federal government, and also they're buying the ambulance with the new cots, which are $20,000 a piece.
Strikers.
I believe so. Yeah. So, but that was the meeting. So they're doing well, and continue to.
Are they going to get rid of the old ones, or they keep them as
There was
rotation?
discussion. They'll rotate those out. Hopefully, that's what they're looking to do. But the thing about the ones that they're buying now, and the ones they've been buying recently, is that the box can be refurbished if you need another cab and chassis for about 60% of a new box. And the boxes are made out of aluminum, so that's generally, most people can't get more than, the box will actually wear out before the cab and chassis, but on these, they're unfortunately the ones that we're replacing don't have those boxes that they can refurbish.
Is there plans in the future to grow their staffing?
They're going to need to.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They're over 10,000 calls a year now.
Yeah.
They'll have to. I mean, there's talk, as we talked before, and Eddie and I both agree that we wish it, and hope that they don't go that way, and that is that to change the way they do it back in Back Creek Valley. And right now, we had that discussion during budget cycle that there is we're not gonna commit more money to paid staff until we get a funding mechanism. That started with, very little staff back 10 or 12 years ago, and now it's almost $2 million. And, so hopefully they'll let well enough alone. If not, then we're gonna have probably a discussion with them. So, but that's all I got to report on. Any, board and commission vacancy activity? We need to make a motion, if somebody would, to reappoint David Weller to the NERMS board, if you would.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor and second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries.
Says reappointment to Laura Riggs to the Farmland Preservation.
I don't think anybody's ready to make that move, or
Not
that's
right
the
now.
only.
Okay.
I'm actually just in the process of trying to figure out all the bylaws and all the rules and what each seat's supposed to represent and all
Okay.
that. So I actually just got that information this morning, actually. Of course, I just asked for it this morning. That's how quick some people respond when.
You want to move the health department over here?
All right, moving on. All right, we have Tim Zai, Community Corrections Director. We MOU for Workforce West Virginia.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir. Good
Before I
to
get
see you.
that-
Doing well.
Yes, sir. Before I get to that, I'll give you a brief update on my program. You all know this, but I'll say it so that anyone listening hears. These programs together are saving the county massive amounts of money. Massive amounts of money. Millions of dollars a year. If it were not for these programs, the Eastern Regional Jail would absolutely be jam-packed. The jail bill on a yearly basis would I believe, well over $6 million. They wouldn't
Easily
even-
double
they
the
wouldn't
price of what we're paying now.
Easily. And they wouldn't even be able to house all the people that would need to be put there if not for these programs. So you have a lot of people that need to go to jail or be held accountable in some fashion that would still be living in the community, continuing to be addicted to substances and commit crimes. to
But
support
you said the word need to go to jail. Most of the ones that,
Legally
if not
speaking-
all the
legally
ones,
speaking,
don't really need to go to jail.
No, I mean legally speaking. As far as the law is concerned, when a crime is committed, a consequence needs to be issued, and that's only right. These programs are a form of alternative sentencing so that they are held accountable for committing those crimes, but in a way that is not only helpful to the people, which is really more important, but also helpful to the community in general, all the taxpayers who, massive amounts of money these programs are saving.
You know, what I say sometimes, Tim, is in today's society, there's a lot of children that have never been held accountable, and they think they can still continue to live that lifestyle when they become an adult, a legal age of 18, and all of a sudden, for the first time, they're going to be held accountable. And what a rude awakening that is. And that's what you're thinking. That's what some of them's much older, but some of them's young and just need to be taught a lesson, and that they don't need to go to jail to be taught that lesson.
That's correct.
But you're absolutely right. Some people need to be removed from society because of their thought process on what is allowable and what isn't, or their care for it. But the majority of them can be rehabilitated and helped, and you are doing a great job. And I think you're absolutely right that you need to express this every time you get an opportunity, so that the public continues to understand the benefits of what you're doing and your teams are doing on a daily basis.
Just the home confinement program alone, just that program since January 1st of this year, if it were not for that program, it would have cost the county $553,484 to incarcerate those people who've been under home confinement supervision. It cost far less than that to run that program. We generated $18,607 in fees. We have 84 current people under supervision, 22 pending, and the referrals continue to come in, the work continues to be done, people are being allowed to work, be with their families, and there's extraordinary value in that. I actually found I feel like a big part of my responsibility is to not only justify the need for these programs, but to find more and more ways to bring in money to offset the cost that the county even budgeted for. I found a little bit more for home confinement. We're going to begin to generate approximately $1,000 a month from the Supreme Court for everyone who's in adult drug court who's under GPS monitoring. So that's good. That wasn't a revenue stream that I had before, and I began here in a couple months.
Tim, before you go on, we're going to talk a little bit about the contract with First West Virginia, and as the council knows from budget workshops, which I doubt whether very few people listen to our budget workshop over the internet, but the great majority of what Tim and the staff do, either through home confinement, the Day Report Center or Recovery Services, are funded through grants or all these different revenue sources that in and of themselves doesn't sound like a lot. $12,000 doesn't sound like a lot. $2,000 a month through workforce doesn't sound like a month. What we get from for transportation services reimbursement doesn't sound a lot. DHHR reimbursements doesn't sound a lot, but when you put it all together, between grants and these miscellaneous revenue sources, within a very, very short period of time, August of 16, we started. Within a very short period of time, Tim has these programs up to where they're almost budget neutral when it comes from when you talk about general revenue dollars, which is important to note. So not only is he saving money, but it's almost like a double-edged savings to the taxpayers.
But, yeah, it is, and it's making our communities a safer place
It is.
in reality.
And there's the opposite side of that. Not that I'm an accountant, I gotta balance everything out, but the opposite side of that is that, helping one person doesn't sound like a lot, but when you do it to hundreds of people that you're having in the program, right now you have a couple hundred people in your program for the Day Report Center and another 100 people in the home confinement. I mean, when you add all that together, that's a huge amount. That's a huge amount of lives, and then you multiply it by the husbands or the wives or the parents or the children and all those people affected by each individual life. You're thousands of people you're affecting on a daily basis with what you're doing.
That ripple effect.
And I said something about your participants being held accountable for the first time. But one of the biggest things we can't forget, that I think plays a big role in it, is that you respect the people coming through the program. And there's a lot of people out there that never received that, or people have lost the respect for them and they're trying to get it back. And you're restoring that respect and hope. The biggest thing in recovery is the word hope. And continue to have hope. And I think I said this to some of it. There was a young gentleman that tried to go into recovery one time and walked out not too long ago, and actually went back and stayed this time. And this individual, I thought for sure would not be alive today. Well, while he's in recovery, he picked up 21 pounds, called me when he got out, met him, took a photo with him, and he said, it's been a long time since I've looked in that mirror and loved the person I was seeing. He said, and I love the person who I am today. It means a lot.
The Recovery Resource Center is still busy. we're holding down there 8 recovery meetings a week, different types of meetings. A couple of those meetings are averaging 25 people in attendance each session. Since January 1st of this year, 46 people have come in and asked for help. 10 of them were successfully gotten into a detox program. 8 of them successfully gotten into an inpatient treatment program. 2 of them successfully enrolled in MAT programs. The 2 grant funded programs that are running through the Resource Center, the Joe Tip grant, which was kind of derailed there due to COVID and such, is now they're in the schools. And since February 9th, they were able to get into Martinsburg High School. Since then, they have facilitated 49 Too Good for Drugs classes. They have interacted with 197 different students in those classes. 49 of them, and that's in person. 49 of them were virtual, and there have been 8 kids who have contacted the staff there outside of school because they give them the contact information. There's been 8 of them now who contacted them because they want to talk about things. Edgesville High School, they started February 25th. There have been 7 classes facilitated, 171 kids connected with in person, 18 virtual, and 5 outside contacts. So that grant-funded program is starting to take legs, and kids in the schools are connecting with them.
And I think when the students find out that we're there to help them, it's kind of like the harm reduction. Then more and more people's going to trust them and come to them.
The teachers throughout these schools are hearing about what they do, and they're hearing about the stories they tell, because both of those Chastity and Nicole are both in recovery, and they openly share that. And the word is going around. They're starting to get contacted by their teachers, some of the coaches. Nicole yesterday was asked to go talk to the football team. I'm curious to see how it continues to unfold itself. I'm excited about that. The quick response team is doing good work. There have been, since January 1st of this year, 155 overdoses that we know of, that 911 has been called for.
And that's outside the city.
That actually includes the city.
Okay.
I'm able to get numbers. The city just won't share the details, so that we can't go follow up with people in the city limits.
Right.
There's a lot of people being missed because of that.
Right, and I think that's important.
It is.
To point out, the quick response team is only operating outside of the city limits.
There was a huge spike in March, probably because of stimulus checks. A lot of overdoses in March. There have been 12 people who have died since the beginning of the year because of overdoses. There have been the quick response team has knocked on 158 doors since they started. There's been 108 people that they've connected with by knocking on doors. 67 of them were the survivors of the overdose themselves. 41 of them were family members. There have been 34 successful contacts made out of those 108. 34 that we consider to be successful, which is 31%. 12 people, they've successfully gotten into an inpatient program. 5 people successfully gotten into a detox program, and 17 people who stay connected with them through peer recovery coaching and or recovery meeting attendance.
That's tremendous results.
It's
off the charts.
Absolutely.
Can I ask you if you have another figure? You said 66 of them or 68 of them were
60.
actually contacted the individual.
67 were the survivors themselves.
So 67. What was the amount of the 67? Because I would think your percentage would be higher of those ones that they actually made a contact with.
I'd have to do the math. So you're talking. So there's
Yeah, but some of the ones that you've got in the program may not be. They may have came from where you contacted a family member and went in. That's why I'm asking if you had that.
So 17 plus 12 is
29
plus 5 is
34.
So
34.
34 is what percent of 67?
50.74%.
Darn near 50%.
%.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's unheard of.
But that's what, so that's where the real value comes, is when you can reach that individual. That was my thought, because I was thinking some of that number may have been where it was a family member where you didn't contact that person, but I guess you have to eventually, right? If you're in the program.
And I don't know where this thing stands, but as you all know, there's a bill that was introduced to defund these programs.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That is ludicrous.
Crazy.
People that introduce ideas like that truly don't have a clue what's going on here and how this needs to be dealt with. They don't have a clue.
Well,
How can you disrespect anybody?
It's just like defunding the harm reduction. You know, just because there's been some bad situations in some parts of the state, you don't need to penalize the ones that are doing good. And I understand that they're working on that. They're trying to understand that they're trying to recognize the ones that are doing a great job. And I say just get a hold of some of the people that's been successful and turn their life around. Let them testify in front of the House or the Senate. And no disrespect to our legislators, I'm just saying our program is doing very well. And I say it all the time. At first, when I heard about the program, I was no, there's no way that I could support that. Then after I started thinking about it, and you get the full scope of the program, well, what better way? You got to gain that trust. You got to gain that, let that person care for the first time in a long time. You do care to me, How can we help you?
A lot of it's management as well. And you have to have somebody implementing the program that truly understands and is able to make sure that it has checks and balances and operates correctly. That brings up another good point. I've been trying, and you guys' schedule on your criminal justice board has changed back and forth some over the holidays and with COVID and all that. And I've been trying to get there. If you would do me a favor and express to your board how important they are. And I know that board at some times, Reverend Walker as well, that board at some times, I think that board seems like it's just kind of going through the motions. But that board enables everything you do to happen under state code. So that board has to be there. So what they're doing is allowing these programs to continue to do what they do. And it's a very important role that they serve. And I want to make sure that if you guys have an opportunity to express my thanks to that whole board.
Sure. Day Report Center is up to 231 active participants. We had a big referral month in March. We have somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 outstanding intakes that are scheduled. We got a lot of referrals in March.
Where are you going to put them in the building you have?
Well, we need to start talking about this edition.
He just wears me out.
We've successfully graduated 203 people now from the Day Report Center. That number is just going to continue to grow. Okay, so the Day Report Center, you all know, we're rocking and rolling. We're eagerly anticipating our move. Hopefully next Friday, we're gonna make this happen, and hopefully not miss much of a beat. This MOU that I believe you should have a copy of, Workforce West Virginia. They receive a lot of state funding that can provide financial assistance to people who are eligible, and a lot of people in our program are eligible. They can receive financial support for all sorts of things. Going to tech school, going to college, daycare costs for people who have children that may not be able to afford daycare, who want to go get some training. They'll even provide money for transportation. If someone has a car that's broken down, they can bring in free quotes. They'll cover the cost of the repair, all sorts of benefits. So we have a staff member designated at the Day Report Center to act as a liaison between our program and theirs to identify eligible participants of ours to refer to Workforce West Virginia, and they're going to provide some financial assistance to us to send them those referrals. $2,000 a month, $24,000 a year. Doesn't require any new staff or anything like that. We're going to use one of our current staff members. So I would request that you all
enter into the
Agreed.
MOU?
Yes.
No additional staff, no additional equipment, no upfront cost to us.
Mm-hmm.
Good to do.
I just know that when I had met with workforce, I'm sitting there thinking, we
Eddie's
gotta-
the one who connected us.
we gotta connect some dots here because with the programs that we've already got going, that Tim and his staff and stuff, they reach an end,
Right.
and they're like, what do we, now what, the
Hit it.
person says, now what do I do? I'm thinking, if we can get them in some job opportunities, which it's more than that, a lot more than that. But I'm like, you guys need to talk here. So I'm glad that you really aggressively reached out and made that happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, entertain a motion to enter into MOU with Workforce WB.
Don't give the president the ability to sign.
All right.
Authority to sign.
We have a motion on the floor. We have a second?
Yes.
Second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks for the great work.
One last thing, Tim. When we started down this road in 2015, we had the early discussion with Ruth Phillips and Ida, and we went to see Alexandria. Ida welcomed us into the program, and at that time, we were given some money from some of the underperforming programs. I think it's important to point out that in addition to the annual commitment that they make, they continue to work with Tim, where we have been identified, Tim's programs have been identified as being one of the more successful ones in the region. So that currently, as we speak, they're looking at, again, the underperforming programs and have put us on alert that there may be some additional funding available to us. If you'll recall, we've used some of that additional funds to buy transportation, vans, equipment. And I think it's important to note that HIDA has been, and Tom Carr will be here on the 17th.
Oh, really? Tom's been a big supporter of ours
Actually,
too.
put him on the agenda as one of our speakers.
Good.
He has been a big supporter since the very beginning. Ruth Phillips, did we invite Ruth, by the way?
Yeah.
She's back in town.
We should. Ruth Phillips continues to take an interest. Her successor, Laura Picard, has been very, very good to us. And currently are using Tim and the program down in Frederick County, Virginia area as a pilot program maybe for the rest of the country. So they recognize what we do here, and they have been extremely good to us and very, very supportive. So I'm anxious for Tom and Ruth to see where we've come from that
Meeting in
house
my
that
office.
no longer stands
Well,
there
the meeting in the office, yeah,
to this new facility.
yeah. And I'd like to add to that, Ruth Phillips has been a huge help to us through HIDA. And, we didn't know what direction to go. We didn't know anything of what was doing. And we just said we want to be the best. And I think without a question, we have became the best. And there's one other person I'd like to also recognize for it, and please invite her as well. And that's Jenny Vincent. Jenny was a reporter at the time that actually hit the streets on her own, by herself, and talked to the people that had addictions and where they were and how hopeless and they were. And I went out on the streets with her some, and you did too, right? And
Brought attention to the problem.
and the first thing that we did was to call the city PD and tell them that we're not out there doing any drug deals. We're just talking. You know, we want to find out what's going
We're
on.
looking for prostitution. We're actually talking to the prostitutes to try to find out, you know, how they can be helped to that type of thing. But yeah.
So to me, there's two people that really jumped out to me, and that was Jenny Vincent, because she got a lot of. Some people didn't look upon her too well because she was airing the dirty laundry, right? She was brought focus to the situation that we have in our county and the city, which some people, you know, that's hard to swallow. But in order to fix a situation or a problem, you got to be willing to address the problem. And the other thing that was huge back then too was the stigma that was given to anybody that had an addiction, and I think that stigma has went away considerably. I'm sure there's some still there, but it's not like it used to be. And I think one of the people that I want to thank for that is Kevin Knowles for opening up his story, and I really think that was our turning point. I really do. So I want to thank anybody and everyone for helping out.
Yeah, hopefully Kevin's coming to you as well.
Yeah.
Kevin did a very good job in getting that part of the program going.
Yeah.
You know, the funny thing is, you mentioned Ruth. When Ruth first came, she came because there was a thought process that we weren't doing anything. And of course, we were trying to do something and had ideas. And she literally came, and that was a meeting with Doug and I, and then she came into the meeting with the thought process of trying to tell us, you know, that we were on the wrong path. And when she was ready to leave, she said, "You guys are absolutely on the right path. You're doing the right things. You just need some help." And she rolled up her sleeves and got involved and gave us some help.
And
You know,
And we absolutely said, "Look, this is our vision. If it's wrong, let us know." And she said, "No, you're right. You're 100% right on." You know, well, you know, if we get to be 95%, you let us know.
what was the one we went down and toured
Down
twice?
in Alexandria.
Alexandria. So you know, while we were talking about this in the beginning of your presentation today, I'm sitting here thinking, I can imagine that at some point Alexandria is going to want to come down and find out how we're doing so that they can help change and evolve their program, because we are clearly exceeding what they were doing. And we went down there and looked at what they did and tried to figure out how we could do it better. And we've been able to evolve that program and continue to do it better. And of course, maybe they are now too.
Oh, yeah.
Not to sell them short, but no, it was a good learning process, and it's good to be where we're at today. And I think you're absolutely right. I don't think we'd got here without the players that got involved and helped us get to this point.
I think the other big turning point, and this goes out to our staff members, is there was a lot of people trying to address the situation that was never in the ditch, you know. And when we've always felt like if you know, it's kind of like being an architect or engineer. If you've never been on the job site, you're not going to be a good architect or engineer. Well, in order to be successful in recovery, it helps be in recovery. And you know,
The city actually helped us a lot too, by their opposition of what we were trying to do at Baltimore Street, because we got an amazing amount of publicity in the whole region because of what we were trying to do, and they didn't want it to happen. So regardless of how it turned out, and it turned out great, because now we have private businesses doing that same thing and the county's not doing it, which is what we wanted to begin with. The only reason why we started to go down that road was because it wasn't happening.
no one was doing it. And like you said, that, you know, somebody came up to you and said, "Well, that was a failure. You all buying 750 Baltimore Street was a huge failure."
Absolutely.
And it's really one of our biggest success stories.
Yeah.
Because everything, a vision we had at 750 Baltimore Street, we're doing,
Yeah.
publicly and privately.
Yep, no, it turned out, it couldn't have turned out better. As a matter of fact, the way it is now is much better than the way we were going, the path we were going. And not only that, but we're using that building, and we have a need for that building and got it at a heck of a good deal. Eddie, I want to thank you as well, because I sat on the Workforce West Virginia board, and I never thought of what you thought. And that's why it's important to have different people at different times on boards, because I never connected those two and you did. And I want to thank you for that, because that's definitely something I missed. There's one other question. Do you have any interns that work during the summer to help out that are training in those type of fields that you employ people in?
We have to turn interns away. We have a lot of people that want to come, and we can only accommodate so many. We have one from Shepherd from August through May each year, and then a couple different people from Blue Ridge that filter in and out. So we don't just bring in interns to do busy work. We actually want them to gain valuable experience and be supervised. And in order to do that properly, we can only take so many. So yes, we do. We are an intern site.
Because
we end up turning more people away than we do taking on.
I have somebody that sent me a message that their daughter is looking. She has a bachelor's in psych, and she's in her master's program right now, and she's looking to do an internship somewhere. So maybe I'll give you that information, and maybe you guys can talk.
Sure.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Tim.
Thank you all.
All right. Next on our agenda is Will Lawrence, a fiduciary supervisor of state accounts for the month of April. 36 still, Will?
Yep, 36.
Okay. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning, Council. As President Kopenhaver said, we do continue to have 36. I will say, before reading off the month of April's settlements, we've seen a sharp uptick in estates that have been opened and actively managed in Berkeley County. I thought, once February kind of kicked in, I thought, okay, well, that's after holidays. People really don't want to deal with that during that time, which is understandable. But that trend has only continued and sharpened. So I think it's safe to assume for the next 4 to 6 to 8 months that these numbers, this 36, it's typically between 20 and 40. I think it's safe to assume that it's going to be a higher number moving forward. So for the settlements, I'll just start off. The estate of Donna Kelly Altwin, the estate of Mary Kearns Bowers, the estate of Velda E. Brown, aka Velda Ernstine Brown, the estate of Sylvia Swain Byrne, aka Sylvia S. Byrne, the estate of Betty Lee Callahan, aka Betty M. Callahan, the estate of Daniel David Kammer, the estate of Georgia W. Canfield, the estate of Charles Raymond Cole Jr., the estate of Betty Jo Custer, the estate of William Leslie Evans Jr., the estate of Melford Thomas Faircloth, aka Melford T. Faircloth, the estate of Jerry Wayne Farmer, the estate of Helen C. Gorkoff, the estate of Daniel Burnett Pawn, the estate of Wayne Franklin Haynes, aka Wayne F. Haynes, the estate of Archie Delano Houck Jr., the estate of Patricia A. Kinder, aka Patricia Ann Kinder, the estate of Anna Mae Kinzer, aka Anna Mae Kinzer, the estate of Robert Russell Coldell, the estate of Katerina Wiola Lemper, aka Katerina W. Lemper, the estate of John Anthony Locantor, the estate of Minas Nick Marangos, the estate of Donald William McCarty Jr., the estate of Catherine Ann Manger, the estate of Lula Mae Mangini, the estate of John Doyle Morgan, the estate of Alston Eugene Myers, aka A. Eugene Myers, the estate of Eleanor Pulse, the estate of Elwood Reeder, the estate of Robert James Reynolds II, aka Robert J. Reynolds Jr., the estate of Reginald R. Ryan, aka Reginald Rogers Ryan, the estate of William Richard Shield Jr., the estate of Donald Matthew Stobbs, the estate of Oletta Virginia Stottlemyre, aka Oletta V. Stottlemyre, the estate of Henry Hamilton Weber, and the estate of Anita Luann Wright, aka Anita L. Wright.
All right, any questions for Will? If not, entertain a motion.
Move to accept the state settlements for
Month of April.
36 month of April, I'm sorry,
And then you would make the motion to approve.
and motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries. And no state hearings to be scheduled right now?
Not to be scheduled. I do believe we do have one just after this estate reading.
We do. And actually, since we've already done the motion and approved, this counts for the month of April. We can move into the state hearing for James W. Poisel.
Absolutely. And all parties are here. I believe actually they're just outside the room. I'll briefly go over the facts and I'll.
Let's go ahead and get the parties in.
Okay.
If they're... Sorry, Will.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Okay, Will.
Thank you, Council. As President Copenhaver mentioned, the estate hearing revolves around the estate of Mr. James W. Poisel. Late last year, Mrs. Heather Myers contacted my office regarding the aforementioned estate, noting that a solemn form hearing may be required, given the fact that only copies of Mr. Poisel's last will and testament could be located. Mrs. Myers, who authored the will, informed me that the copy may have to be used in lieu of the original. Indeed, the will vastly differs from the intestate succession granted by West Virginia, granting specific bequeaths of real property and residual proceeds to nieces, great-nephews, and friends. Also, a trust is created by the will. As Council knows, copies of original documents such as these are only acceptable upon this body's orders. Through January of 2021, my office continued to be in contact with Mrs. Myers as well as other fiduciary commissioners regarding the immediate issue. Given my office's deliberative nature at times, action needed to be taken to secure and preserve Mr. Poisel's probate assets. Thus, on February 26, 2021, Ms. Sarah Kiter, the named executrix in the copy of the will and the niece of the deceased, opened the estate intestate and was bonded through traveler's casualty and surety for a sum of $143,700. On March 4th, 2021, this hearing was set to determine whether the county would accept the non-original copy of the will into probate. I will now yield to Mrs. Myers, the petitioner in this case.
Thank you for hearing from me today. Mr. Poisel was my client from 2017 through 2020 when I did the final changes estate planning documents for him. I believe his filing system was erratic at best. He, at no time, until his death, contacted me to revoke the original will. We only did some tweaks through a first and second codicil, copies of which were attached here as well. It's my firm belief as his estate planning attorney up until the day of his death that he at no time revoked in a purposeful manner his original last will and testament, and I'm asking you all to allow the signed copies. I always keep a signed copy and also give my clients a signed copy, which was found to be admitted to formal probate. Again, at times, if it doesn't make much difference in the distributive provisions of the will versus intestacy, I would tell my clients that we would just not go through this procedure. However, one of the things that was very near and dear to Mr. Poisel's heart was a scholarship fund that he had established at Hedgesville High School. That scholarship fund is a residuary beneficiary of some substantial assets of his. And again, he left specific bequests to individuals that would not take through intestate succession. So it is my ask of you all, if you will, allow the copy of the will to be probated as if it's the original.
Okay.
Thank you. Any
Thank you.
questions?
Everybody's in agreement with that that's here today?
Is anyone opposed that's here today? We have some of the beneficiaries, and we have someone from the high school as well that would represent that scholarship fund. So, and everyone is in agreement to that. I have not heard from anyone that would be in disagreement.
Okay.
If I may, I'm sorry,
Sure.
Council, we did notify through hearing notices and certified mail, copied all intestate successors and heirs, and the only responses I received was that they would not be attending, and really we're fine with us moving forward. So.
Okay. Mr. Delegato, you have any reason to be concerned not to accept the copy?
I have no reason to be concerned. I think this whole process is a little antiquated. It stems from before we had copy machine, something like that. So,
Right. Okay. All right. Entertain a motion to accept the copy of the will.
So moved, Mr. President.
We have a motion on the floor and a second. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. That's all I have.
All right. Well, have a great day.
You too.
Good to see you, Will.
Good to see you guys.
At this time, we'll go ahead and take a break.
You want to say what you're going on the tour after the break?
Huh?
You have a tour of the.
Yeah.
You want to say what you're
We're
going tour?
going down to the first floor.
All right. Yeah.
Want to come back here and then all.
We'll
down
come back
together?
here and call the meeting back.
Oh, they're going tour, okay.
0 down, 0 for 5. Can't do any more.
Well, you know, but.
nice young man.
Oh, yeah. Yep. All right, we're back in session. Next on our agenda is to go downstairs and voter registration to do a tour of the voting machines for needing upgrades. Let's go downstairs and see what we got. No, I agree, Eddie. Great. Next on our agenda, we have Ms. Mock, the county clerk, and Gary Wine. Actually, Gary Wine, well, Ms. Mock, you're going to talk about the voting machine upgrade?
Yes, sir.
You want to go first? All right, go ahead.
Well, I'm very pleased to say that we've had a positive experience downstairs looking at the review of the equipment. The price is about 1.3 million, and in the early negotiations, it's like half down, and they refinanced the 5 years at 0%. Then it went to 500,000. Now the number is 5 equal payments, 5-year payments, 0%, and it starts on when we sign the contract, the very first part. So 1/5 is due on the first time sign. So it's a real good experience when you can borrow 1.3 at 0% for 5 years. And the maintenance agreement is not in it because that has always been worked out between Gary and the company. Because there is guarantees. How many years guaranteed in there?
So the initial product delivers with a 1-year warranty. The proposal includes all setup training to get us ready to go. Remember, we're dealing with a company that has supported us since 2002, so there's no question of the value of what the staff, VS&S, Forecasting and Harris provide to Berkeley County. So what they've offered is a total solution. I have 1.33705, 335,705. As Mrs. Mock just said, there are 3 options at hand. The first option is half of the 1.3 in cash, and the difference for 5 years is 0% paid in quarterly payments. The first one do it signed. Then they offered a little better scenario and said, we'll take 500,000 down, and then the difference between that and the 1.3, 0, 4 quarterly payments. First one do it signing. And then lastly, I think Cam called and scared somebody in Omaha or wherever it is and said, hey, look, they're being real mean to us, and I feel bad, but they really sharpened the pencil, and they came back and said, okay, we'll finance the 1.3 million. We'll take it over 5 years with four equal quarterly payments, no interest. So they're going to give you 1.335705 worth of equipment and no interest for 5 years with quarterly annual.
Quarterly payments of $66,785.05.
There you go. The other caveat, and they offered, was if you want to prepay the 5 years worth of maintenance up front, it was $270,300. They offered about a 10% discount on that. You're used to paying annual payments for maintenance and repair on these equipments. For $270,000 at 20%, I know $20,000 is a lot of money, but I think it's most advantageous if we don't prepay the maintenance and put it on a 1-year plan like we're used to paying already. First year's inclusive, but out years 2 through 5, right? We would have to pay them. I think it works best for everybody. I think it works. That's the model we do with most everything. We typically don't wrap maintenance in it, but as you just saw, it takes Berkeley County into today's environment with a voting solution that's equal to 42 other counties, 43 other counties in the state that are doing the same thing. So we're behind the curve, which is abnormal, but we've had some unique situations over the last few years with changes and things like that. So we're prepared. The other thing to note about this solution is that it's currently you have 66 precincts, voting places, polling places. This is proposed going to 80. We know based on the population that we have to do that. There's law that says you can only have so many voters in each precinct. We've done an initial analysis. We do not have the census data delivered yet. As soon as we have that, we'll start redistricting, and we'll start to design those through the clerk and present them to you as soon as we get that data. So I believe it's a great solution. I think that the vendors stepped to the plate. I think the clerk has done her due diligence in getting ready to present this to you. So you're the money folks, and we're here to ask if you're interested in spending $1.3 million.
Well, I think you made some great headway this morning because I was on the fence, and
You have to
Yeah.
thank Clay.
huh?
You have to thank Ken for that.
All right. Well, thank you. Because, we're very cautious about our finances. We're very cautious about what we pay in interest, if we pay anything. So, after what we've seen in Ms. Mock's hard work and your work, I entertain a motion to upgrade our voting machines, to 80 new machines at $1,335,705 at 0% interest spread over a 5-year period.
Gary, I just have one question.
Yes, sir.
If the council approves this today, I assume we're gonna wanna take delivery as quickly as possible.
Yes, sir.
So we can begin the training. So let's say they're drop shipped us and we take possession of them May first. Since they take delivery, May first. At the time that we take possession, is there a deposit due? You want the first
They want the
quarterly
first
payment?
quarterly
I'm just wondering what,
The first quarterly payment, that
Okay.
first 66.
so
is
that,
due.
that will come out of this fiscal
Yes,
year
That
budget.
is correct.
And then next year, what we'll do is when we go through the unencumbered fund balance in July, we'll take what's due next fiscal year, and I'll have to add that to our list. We'll pay that hopefully for unencumbered fund balance.
So this one's coming out of contingency account?
Yeah, this one will come out of contingency and we're okay.
And
I just
have
wanted to
those-
make sure that the council knew that and I thought that was the answer, but I just wanted the council to know that we are gonna have to make a $66,785.25 payment this fiscal.
That's coming out of Mr. Wine's budget, right?
It is, yeah.
And I have to assume we'll get net 30 on that first invoice. So realistically, mid-June or so.
Yeah,
We'll snail mail it. They'll get it in July. We'll work it.
Mail's going really slow these days.
Trust me, gotta get it addressed.
All right, do I have a motion?
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to accept the clerk's recommendation to upgrade the voting machines.
At $1,335,705 spread out over 5 years, interest-free and paid quarterly, right?
I think that's what was already
I'm
stated.
assuming there'll be a purchase agreement.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Give the council president the authority to sign once it's reviewed by legal.
And let the president be responsible for all of it.
Second.
Motion on the floor is second. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you.
One other thing I'd like to say, under the civil service, when I was here last time, we only had one lawyer. Right now, currently Linda Gutzel as the Bar Association, Betty Palmer, I swore in on Friday, representing the Deputy Sheriff's Association. So the position that is, so we do have a quorum, and our next meeting is April 12th at 10 o'clock at the county courthouse.
All right, thank you. We'll work on that third one this
Okay,
month.
thank you.
All right, Mr. Wine, moving back to the broadband feasibility study recommendation.
Yes, sir. So if the council will remember, you wrote and applied for a grant, actually it was last year, and was approved and funded to the tune of about $50,000 to actually go through an exercise and have a broadband feasibility study that actually looks at where the deficiencies are, where the complete failures are, and offer up some solution to us, help to grow, and then be able to go after some of the community development block grant money. There's some $200 million of that stuff laying out there.
Plus more money coming.
Yeah, so step one of getting to that money is this. There isn't a match, to the best of my knowledge. You have been awarded $50,000. Of that committee, Mr. Delia was on it, Sandy Hamilton, Matt Umstead, Randy Lilly, myself, a gentleman from the public, Jim Moffitt. We met on 2 occasions. The first occasion was to review all the applications. There were 4 submitters. We did that and narrowed that down to 3. We met again and actually interviewed and discussed and had a summary checklist and kind of a score sheet for each of the 3 vendors that we interviewed. Of those, we were most impressed and really think we do a good job. A company out of Blacksburg, we won't hold that against them, but out of Blacksburg called Design 9. They have done studies in West Virginia, some as close as Morgan and Jefferson, but others all over the country. The gentleman, I forget his last name, he's a PhD, but is extremely versed in this process and really impressed me personally, and honestly impressed everyone. It was unanimous by the entire group that they would do a good job for us. They know that our budget is about $50,000. This was a request for qualification, so there was no number really quoted. So what we're asking is if the council agrees with the committee that you approve us to move forward, me specifically,
to negotiate a price and come back with the contract for signature to be funded with that $50,000 grant.
I agree with your, of doing that. We'll get a motion here, but what's the time frame of the study from start to finish?
I believe that they could get it done in about 60 days.
Okay, pretty quick.
First of summer, we should have some recommendation back. And be able to move forward. It's not a very long process.
And that will lay out a roadmap of the direction and that we need to go?
It will.
Not only to expand the broadband, but how to go about expanding the
That's the
broadband.
that's the sole reason of this exercise. And they were very impressed with your efforts to partner, to do a public-private partnership with Morgan Wireless. They said, well, you're already doing it. Yes, they are, sir. So they were impressed that this council has already identified that the deficiencies were there and actually partnered with someone out there and are doing one of the things that I'm positive you'll hear from them is, if you use this asset, you can do that, and so on and so forth. So you already took steps in this direction a year ago. Right? So this will sharpen that pencil. It will help more granularly define how to address the people in the valley or the people on Plateau Drive or wherever it is and get broadband to them.
And there are broadband providers that are aware that this study is going to be done. They've already started to contact us to see when it's going to be available so they can get it in hand.
For sure.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, there's going to be so much money thrown at expanding broadband that typically when there's that kind of money out there, it's kind of like free college education. The price goes up drastically. So it's got to be competitively thought out.
And this will help define that. I read a couple studies where some communities actually formed a broadband utility, if you're a council, and that council regulated those growth efforts moving forward to kind of keep them all on a level playing field, right? It helps. My opinion is whatever helps us get to that CDBG money the quickest is what we want to do. We can get our share of that federal funding that allows us to help Berkeley County. Let's get it done. So we'll stay involved. We believe that this got a real personal feel from the interview. It wasn't a big engineering firm. It was a smaller firm, and I think part of your statement of your question earlier, how fast things get done, I think that this particular selection will help facilitate.
All right, entertain a motion to give Mr. Wine direction and the committee to go into the negotiation fee process for the broadband study.
Do we need to vote for that or just a
Direction.
consensus?
I think you should.
You should do it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll make a motion to authorize Gary Wine to go into negotiations for the broadband study.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor and a second. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries.
Can you let the record reflect the name of the company, Design 9? Please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wine. Next on our agenda is Joseph Link, H&H Rock. Todd Funkhausen, Berkeley County Historical Landmarks Commission, letter of support for restoration of the Watkins Ferry House at Maidstone. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for giving me just a couple of minutes. The property we're talking about, this was taken when we actually acquired the house and lot, which you might scratch your head and go, why? Because it had fallen into significant disrepair and currently is not in good condition.
Somebody tried to burn it down once, didn't they?
It was deemed arson, but it was actually, I don't know, because I was so involved with it as the project manager when it happened. I was there the night that they were still working to get the ashes to stop blowing. And the fire marshal determined it was arson, meaning a person set it. But we also found junk and stuff in the house where I think it was being inhabited by one or more homeless people. And my view is you wouldn't burn down the roof over your head if you needed a roof over your head. So it's probably trying to get warm, trying to cook something with it.
Accidental.
Yeah, accidental arsenic, there is such a category. Well, I want to thank the council. I don't want to take any more of your time than necessary, and this is a pretty short story. My name is Joe Link. Correct the record, I'm a former employee. I retired and then became a 1099 consultant because I have been a project manager for H&H Rock, which is a real estate development company, for a number of years. And I am here on behalf of that Watkins Ferry House. Some people know it by other names, but that's the way it's federally recognized as by our government as an historic landmark. It's right on the Potomac when you come across the bridge on Route 11 at Temple Drive. And as you probably all know, it has, it's just steeped in our nation's history.
That's the one that would be just slightly upstream.
Exactly.
So coming across the bridge from Williamsport would be on your right.
The first thing on your right.
I just seen that a couple weeks ago.
And that's, over the years, that's been an area of blight.
Right.
That we've had some complaints about. In fact, I travel that road all the time because of where I live.
Right.
There's a cutoff right there as you go across the bridge. Yep.
Right.
Just last weekend, someone had dumped mattress and box springs there. They dump trash there all the time.
Well, that means I'm gonna get another call.
You will probably.
Yeah.
Isn't there a dirt road back through there too?
Well, if you make
to
an
Albemarle.
immediate right, it goes back, there's some summer houses and things right on the river. But it really catches your eye when you come across the Route 11 bridge out of Maryland. It's set right there.
At one time, didn't that piece of property, wasn't it going through the planning commission for a subdivision?
Yeah, there's a subdivision proposed to the right, and
On
then
the
a little
opposite
bit
side of the
further up
road.
the hill to the left called Maidstone on the Potomac.
Okay.
But it never,
Right.
Well, the market.
yeah.
I got an approved plan on the opposite side of the road. The we didn't make up the name. Maidstone on the Manor goes back to Lord Fairfax when it was the Virginia colony. Before there was a West Virginia even. Roy Mish was the last occupant, and he sold the house and the surrounding lands to an individual apart from us before we even knew about it. And eventually, H&H Rock bought the portions that were land, but the then owner didn't want to give up the house and the lot that it's on.
How big's the lot that it's?
Flat, just over 5 acres. And we own what's around it, so it's kind of protected from when we finally made the acquisition. And a lot of years have passed since anyone lived in the house. Once he purchased it, Roy moved into town. He was not in particularly good health. And so the house really deteriorated. Ultimately, there was a fire that gutted the brick portion of the house, which we'll call the newer section of the house. We purchased it and have maintained the grounds because it had vines all over it. We still have to fight those and keep it mowed during the season. And we did things to secure the house, but we've not done anything to actually fix the structure. So we've made some minor repairs, but what we've done in the past 6 months is we've interviewed and hired a contractor very skilled in historic restoration. And over the winter, using lights, because with the boarded house, there's no light inside, I found the great functionality of LED floodlights. They're terrific. A detailed as-built study, which is to look at all of the details, was done. And from that study, we now have the process of work and what it would entail, which enables budgeting to be done, but it also gives us a picture of what this gentleman and his firm will do to keep it in the realm of its original form. And I should also say, the company that I formerly worked for, I questioned them because I was working on this. There's not a plan to put a modern kitchen and a lot of other amenities to flip the house to a residency. Because our CEO's idea over the years, we still think we'll do something with the surrounding grounds, would like to keep it pretty much as it is, but restored, and open it on a scheduled cycle for public viewing. And to that end, they're willing to underwrite the project. But we are pursuing both federal tax credits, which is the way any federal government program would work for a registered property such as this. And lo and behold, scratching around, we found a program in West Virginia, which is specifically for fire-damaged historic restoration. So whether that will yield anything or not, I don't know. But all these applications, and the reason for my taking your time, is that they require documentation of community support. Not financial community support, but letters demonstrating the interest and enthusiasm of the community for the project. And I can say, and I know Mr. Funkhauser is behind me, he was the first in his organization to step up. But the Berkeley County Landmarks Commission and Historical Society has provided a letter, and since then, the Historical Recovery and Preservation Society and the Falling Waters Battlefield Association, we've already received theirs, and several others are in process. I've reached out to the state delegate and to the senator at the state level, who's also president of the Senate this term, and they're interested, but they're also in session. And so I can talk with their aides. I have no total assurance that I'm going to have a letter anytime immediately, but a letter from the County Council of Berkeley County, where the home and the property is located, would be invaluable, in our opinion, in our submissions. So I'd like you to imagine for a minute coming across the bridge if you were returning, or if you've not yet ever been to West Virginia, and to see that house restored. We've got the plans, literally the hard plans to do it, and we've got a significant amount of the funds set aside to do it. So a letter would be helpful in that.
So how far does the house date back?
It dates back to the 1700s. If you actually go through, I sat down with the late Don Wood when we first acquired the land around it and got history, and he contributed a book of history as well. And I've talked to a lot of other people who are local historians, and it literally covers the period from the French and Indian War, when there was a Fort Maidstone. And Fort Maidstone, they believe, was where the bridge now enters West Virginia. And George Washington, in his military role, was a big advocate of those forts in what was the new territory. And so it goes that far back.
All right.
Is there any move to do archaeological studies on this project?
Actually, the Historic Recovery and Preservation Society, which is portions of Maryland, West Virginia, and a little bit of Virginia, because we had people prowling around there all the time, we decided maybe it's better to join forces. And so that organization organized a full property search, not just the grounds of the home, but the riverfront, meadow, everything, and came up with an incredible amount using metal detectors. They did it in a grid system. They recorded everything they did. They did a registry of all their findings with photographs and descriptions. And our one condition was, our company owner at the time had already envisioned, if he can get the house and fix it up, he wants to use it for some historic education and allow the public in on, not daily, because we can't afford to pay staff, but periodically. And so we have a lot of relics that we don't personally own, but that are committed to be put on display should we open the house. So I'll give my boss credit, he had some foresight, because the stuff was probably gonna be pilfered anyway. We know that a lot of stuff probably was lost, but when we got everything from unspent Confederate rounds to brass buttons, a British halfpenny, all kinds of things that have been found.
How bad was the fire damage in the?
I wrote a letter that, I think the Monday after the fire, and sent it to the county, that the fire department, it was a 3 or 4 alarm, and they absolutely spared 100% of the historic log portion, and the first floor and up the stairwell and part of the second floor of the brick addition were gutted. I mean, you really, there's a path that I know is fairly secure, but you can't walk around in there. You can go through the charred planks.
Right, so the exterior is pretty sound, the roof is, I'm
We had a
assuming the
structural
rafters.
study done to the exterior of the brick, and yes, but everything is gonna have to be taken out, first floor and most of the second floor, and replaced with new.
Everything, or is there, are you going to try to salvage? I've actually done a large amount of historic restoration.
Wonderful.
As a matter of fact, I did the Harper's Ferry fires. I did the restoration for the buildings down there.
Yeah, that's a very specialized thing if there's been a fire.
It is, and you have to, and what we did was we used soda blasters and cleaned up timbers and tried to salvage timbers and floor system joists, those type of things, and then had the Amish actually make us some to spec on exactly what was in there so that we could replicate what was there. But that was my question. Are you going to try to clean up and reuse anything you can, or are you just
Anything that we can, yes. For example, on the second floor, in a portion of that brick section, we have restorable trim. But the value of the restorable trim to this company that we're working with is that now they know what the trim actually was. So they can replicate for downstairs where it's toast.
Right. I mean, there is value to timbers that have been charred and cleaned back up to show a life cycle that they've been through at one point as well. So,
I'll ask.
Yeah.
Because in the discussions I've had, I've not had that brought up. So that's helpful, actually.
All right, Mr. Funkhauser, you're standing back there all this time being quiet. That's not like you, so I know you want to say something.
I'm good. He's spot on. This we've identified as a threat to Berkeley County for the development. So if there are properties where we would want to emphasize preservation, this would be one. It dates back to 1741. It was there long before Berkeley County. We have evidence of patents coming through, crossing the Potomac during the Civil War. It goes back to Peter Light. Many of the residents of Williamsport relocated over to Berkeley County, sold their holdings, relocated over to Berkeley County. So it just gives us a nice thread. This project is one that we desire in the county because it's very thorough. It's very well done. I'm used to working with homeowners who have something that costs a lot of money and they want to figure out how to get it done. But with Mr. Lincoln, his project, it was very well outlined with historic preservation briefs. Their interest was very, very concise, very direct. It was a no-brainer to support this project. It's a gateway to Berkeley County. Like Mr. Davis said, it's basically been an eyesore. It hurts us from tourism, hurts us from heritage tourism. So being able to sponsor a project like this, and with the new members that we have on the Historic Landmarks Commission, this is what they live for. For me, I probably wouldn't be so fundamental as to, soda blasting timbers, but for them, that's something that they would parlay into. As far as the findings that he has, that group, we didn't have a dog in that hunt. We don't have any say in that. So if the relics are put it on display, that would be great, but they have no historical relevance at this point. That would be dismissed through the state. So as a museum, you'd have that little connotation, but just having that house restored as that gateway through the town, especially with it being a Kuslaw Basin.
That's what I was getting ready to say, with all the money being spent across the river there. I mean, I can envision, people coming right across the bridge and coming right to the house.
Yeah, it's just being the view shed and all, everything that goes with the aesthetics. So for us, it's historic preservation at the core, but there's so many ancillary benefits to this project. And it's also an educational component that allows us to be able to educate other homeowners. We have new homeowners moving into this area. We have new residents in there. So they bring this level to the area, and it's nice to be able to have a model that they can go by and help us market these historic properties. So
Do you know if the house is in the 100-year floodplain or not?
it's just a hair shy of 100-year floodplain. I think the last flood was a hot water heater stuck on the side of the bank right there. So I think that's good. Yeah, that 100-year floodplain.
If it gets up that high, it'll be over the Conecuh aqueducts.
Yeah.
It really will be.
That's true.
And up to the decking of the Route 11 bridge. It'll be over the Route 11 bridge to reach that house.
Yeah.
And I've never seen a river there.
Miss Mark told me one time that the railroad is the highway mark for the area. So I'll give her expertise. I hope I don't see the 100-year flood.
Yeah. All right. Entertain a motion to approve a letter of support for the Watkins Ferry House of Maidstone.
And the letter is in your signature packet.
Okay.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Tell the pro-
Do you have any old photos of the property, 1700s?
Let me see that photo real quick.
Yes, sir.
Well, these are blown up, so it's,
Right.
That's cool.
and then this is just the cover page,
Yeah.
but I have the full set of plans. We shared everything with Todd, or I did, in quest for the letter, and he referenced it in the sense that it's extremely detailed.
Are the outbuildings that are still there, are they to the air?
They're in rough shape.
Yeah.
We lost the same toll house. So when the Turnpike Company started, that was a toll.
Yeah.
We lost the toll house.
Up the hill, halfway up the hill.
Yes.
Yeah, the toll house was up the hill and was gone before we ever even met the property.
Yeah,
Is
that
the
went
stone
20
still
years
there?
ago.
To some degree.
Yeah.
Very little. Yeah, I didn't even know about the toll road until Don told me, and then he lamented its loss.
Yeah, I remember the stone toll house. Is that right, almost on Route 11?
How much was the toll?
You have to check with the lane. She paid it.
Well, just not wanting to run the clock, but interestingly, the person that was familiar with the log portion was young George Washington as a surveyor, and he didn't like the route of what became the toll road. He was looking, as a surveyor, he was hired with a group looking at a corridor and what they were proposing, the Braddock Road. He thought there were better places. So, literally Washington slept there. We have letters from him, correspondence.
All right. Well, good luck, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir.
Here's your picture.
Your picture. You'll want that.
Next on our agenda is Allen Davis County Administrator Ground Maintenance Contracts, Mutual Aid Agreement with 167th Airlift Wing, and revisions to the policy of IC9 employees running for and holding elective office.
Yes, sir. First up is the extension of your current grounds maintenance contracts for Pikeside Waterway and Sportsman's Paradise. If you'll recall, 2 years ago, we did go out for competitive bid. At that time, Pikeside Waterway was awarded to Tinsman Landscaping at $345 per mowing Any herbicide applications was also Tinman's at $16 per hour, and that's primarily for the big riprap that's down in Sportsman's Aid. As you know, every spring we have issues with sumac growing up through there, and what they can't pull out, then they spray.
It's tree of heaven, not sumac.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a
West
difference.
Virginia palm trees.
Yeah, there's a difference.
Yeah, not really.
Sportsman's
quite a bit of
Paradise with C&D
Is it?
Property Management at $494 per mowing. Last year, we reached out to Tinsman and C&D to see if they wanted to exercise. And when we bid, typically a contract out, it's 1 year with the option for 2 out years if they want to renew it. Last year, they renewed at the same rates that they did for the first year, $345, $494. So the current year the current contract expires June 30th, 2020. We did reach out to the current vendors. They both indicated the desire and the willingness to extend it for the third and the last out year. Tinsman is requesting that he be allowed to decrease his price from $345 per mowing to $350 per mowing. C&D Property Management has kept theirs at $494 for the third consecutive year, and Tinsman's cost of herbicide application increases from $16 an hour to $21 an hour. They've done a good job for us. Certainly would recommend, I talked to Jack, they've worked well with us. Certainly would recommend that we extend their contract for the third and last year of that's available, and then next year, this time we put it out for competitive bid.
All right, entertain a motion on the ground maintenance contracts.
Make a motion that, we enter into a contract, with Tinsman's Landscaping and C&D Property Management.
Have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second on the motion. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries.
I'm gonna abstain from voting due to the fact that I've used them in the past
All right.
and maybe using them again, so.
All right, mutual aid agreement with 167th.
Yes, sir. Last week, the council approved the mutual aid agreement with the city of Martinsburg. What you have before you is the mutual aid agreement with the 167th Airlift Lane. As Councilperson Gokenair will tell you, we do depend on the 167th quite often. They provide a very, very good service to us. The main difference between this MOU or the MOU that's before you and the MOU that you approved last week, the MOU last week did not have any expiration date. You could just cancel it with 30 days notice. This agreement becomes effective on the date of the last signature, remains in effect for 5 years, and automatically renews for an additional 5 years with the right to renew for an additional 2 5-year terms not to exceed 20 years. However, all the parties can unilaterally terminate with notice, so that's really the only difference. So unless the council person Gokenair feels otherwise, I think I would recommend to the council we enter into the mutual aid agreement with 167.
The only thing that I saw when I discussed it with Galliardi was the fire departments, the volunteer fire departments are not in this agreement, so we're not speaking for them or, they don't have a signature on this, there was no input by them, so this is basically with us and our emergency management, property fire, our hazmat. That's how I see it.
Is this how it's been done in the past?
I talked to you, and I talked to Randy, and there wasn't one in the past. There wasn't an agreement, and he had the same concerns that how it's worded, that might imply that some of the volunteers are encompassed in this, but I think it should be clear. I mean, I think we understand it that way, but I called somebody from the air guard out there just to make sure that they understood that. They've not called me back.
I just think if they want the volunteer fire department to be a part of this, they should have included them in the, and also have the signature. That's what we.
But they've been offering this service for forever out there.
Yes.
And there's another point I'd like to make. You know, we fund the airport, but when I sat in the negotiations with the Air Guard over 5 years ago, trying to get it increased, because at that point they were only getting the airport was only getting $1 a year. At that point, when I sat in those negotiations with the Air Guard, they were clear to point out that part of their reasoning for the fee that they give the airport, which is minimal, is because of the services that they provide, and this was one of the services that they provide for the community. So the airport does help the community as a whole by not getting paid for some of the real estate that they lease to the Air Guard, because they're getting an in-kind service out of them. That we are actually.
And I would probably echo what Councilperson Gokenhour has expressed, that really this MOU has a huge impact and helps out the volunteers, as the volunteers are helping them out as well if they need to be. Can we send this back and ask a request for the volunteers to be part of this signature page?
And they could also do a separate mutual aid
I know.
agreement with the association,
Right.
because the city of Martinsburg is already.
I don't have a problem with that, but at least before we sign it, I would like to get that okay with them. I don't think for us to sign it and then go back and ask them to do the MOU. I think it should be either one of the same or at least, because I can see where there could be some concern.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a great working relationship with them and have for quite a while, but it's not clear in this document. And it's not spelled out how.
Well, 90% of the time, they're assisting the volunteers.
Yeah.
I mean, if not more. It could be 99%.
It's probably.
Right. So, let's see.
But if there was an issue there, the volunteers would be assisting them as well.
Absolutely, no, I'm in agreement with what's going on, but I do believe that with my past history of it being 10 years on the fire board, this.
Yeah, they're coming off the base a whole lot more than what.
Absolutely.
Other than, well, just leave it there.
Right. So, can we?
The other concern I had was with paragraph 11, where all the other waivers of liability are a few ways, and it goes, where none of the other signatures hold the United States responsible for any harm done, firefighting foams, chemicals, or other materials used by the airport. Which I think stems from the issue before with firefighting foams. If we do agree to that, it should be at least 2 ways to that.
I agree with you. I mean,
But I don't think it should be in here in the first place. I also called to ask about that. They don't really follow it.
all right, so let's just kick this back and try to get those two things clarified.
Well, I'm sure that paragraph comes from the Warm Springs issue.
Or Big Spring.
Or Big Spring, yeah.
Yeah, and I understand that. At least it should be a two-way. And as Councilperson Gokenhour and I have expressed in the past, there's a huge value in what they help us with. So let's do that, and we'll at least get the information out to the volunteers and the fire association. The issue, and I'm not opposed for them having their own MOU, because it takes a while for that cycle to happen. And we don't want to lose this window of opportunity.
Well, right now, we can't even find an existing mutual agreement with 167. So we're working without one.
Right.
So delaying it for a little bit
Well,
is
in the same way as the city, hasn't been renewed for a long, long period of time. So we're trying to clean all this stuff up, so if you would do that, Mr. Delaghetti.
yeah.
All right, next on the revisions of policy IC9.
Last week, council discussed proposed changes to policy number IC9, employees running for holding elective office. He wanted to table it for a week so he could think about it more and asked me to put it back on the agenda.
Okay, well, we pick up our discussion where we was last week. I expressed that I think that there could be concerns and on some of this and I don't know if you all thought about it or whatever, but I'll open the floor for discussion and a motion. Since there is no discussion.
No, I was gonna ask a question. Is there a concern from the primary on, or including the primary?
Well, it'd be including the primary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was, thinking of maybe a compromise that I'll use myself as an example and you.
Okay.
Let's say you and I were an employee and we were both of the same party, we're both running in the primary. That the winner of that one would then have to choose to resign.
Yeah, I can see where there would be some concern as early as the primary. But it's open for discussion, so if that was one of the criteria that
I was just been thinking about as instead of, if I decided to run, that I would have to resign immediately, not knowing even in the primary. I mean, if I was a candidate in the primary and I was running unopposed, then I would say it would be, and I wouldn't have an opponent in the primary, and
I
then
think
it would go back to
that could be if we, whichever direction decide to go on this, I think that could be a compromise.
I think there would be more conflict in the primary than there would if you were discussing.
I thought about it that way too.
If you were discussing about employees trying to figure out how to react to two people in the same office running for the same, we kind of used the assessor as an example last time.
That's why I used Duggan after that. So.
What's that?
That's why I said Duggan. I mean, I just not to include or exclude anybody. That was a thought that I had, and I thought about it that way too.
Yeah.
But as a condition to run, I really hate to think that we would, deter anybody from running with this, but also understand why we would understand happening.
I still feel that the addition language, that's been added, I think it's discriminatory for employees. They don't want to give up a salary, to give up a retirement, healthcare. So we've got people in these positions that, have perhaps attained a tremendous amount of knowledge that want to become a leader in this county. And we're saying, no, you gotta give all this away. And if you lose your house, you're done. I know that the policy says you may come back for consideration, but that's a flip of a coin. I've spoken to several people about it, employees of the county and people outside the county, and they kind of shake their head like, why are you gonna do that?
But it does put the employees of the elected office, the departments, at a kind of a questionable period. It really does. But I'm okay. It doesn't matter to me. But I can tell you that if that was to happen, that employee, if it stays the way it is, will be addressed.
I think it has to be addressed. I mean, it would have to be, I mean, obviously there's things, you know, it's not an everyday issue that you're dealing with, you know, it's, and then up until this election, I'm not aware of any other than the sheriff's, any other time that this has really come about.
All right, so what's
I don't know how you would, I don't know how you being, and if we go back to the assessor, I don't know how the assessor could discipline an employee, for doing something that they're not supposed to, if they're running against him at the time they're working for him. I don't know how he could discipline them if they did something wrong, without it being looked at as
Retaliatory.
as retaliating against them, running against them. I don't know how he could do that.
and we're just using the assessor as an example, but
Yeah,
it could be
yeah,
anything.
and I'm just using
you
an
know?
example. Yeah, I mean, it would be any office, any elected office. I mean, to discipline that person that's underneath of you, when they clearly do something wrong, it'd be pretty tough. It'd be pretty tough because it's going to clearly look at, in the public's eye, as he's retaliating against them for running against him.
All right, what's the wishes? Floor is open. Entertain a motion, open the floor for a motion.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to, is it clear in the recommendation? Is there a recommendation?
Yes, there's a policy.
Accept the policy.
So it's the IC9 employee, is that the name of the policy?
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second.
Can there be a little discussion then about what I had mentioned about the primary? Would that be an option to add in there or no?
Do you all want to add?
I'm making the motion, and in my motion, I don't agree. I think it's more controversial in the primary than it is in the general election. In the general election, I think at that point, it's almost clear that that individual is moving forward. Unless it's another office, unless there is an opposition from the other party, I guess.
Mr. Delegati, have you reviewed this?
I've looked at it, and I mean, my concerns are the same as I had last week. It's a fundamental right to run for office in West Virginia under the state constitution. Anytime the government takes any action to keep that right, it's going to be looked at by a court with strict scrutiny. Now, there are examples that stood strict scrutiny, for instance, civil service, as well as the civil service at the state level. The state level has classified employees that can't run for office, but there's a whole host of state employees that can run for office. It might be challenged, especially since I could see, for instance, if there was an open prosecutor's position and multiple assistant prosecutors wanted to run for the office, I mean, I would imagine one of them would want to be trigger happy to be tested for that fire to run for office. But I understand the policy, the benefits of it. It's not clear that you can't do it. You have to. It's in your hands.
That just really muddied it up pretty good.
Yeah, he really didn't. That was an attorney's answer. Yeah.
Well,
In other words,
how has it held up with what's the difference on the civil service side?
Well, civil service, they're not at-will employees. They can't be fired by so just take the state example. Nobody in the governor's office with a policy-making position, those folks can be removed anytime and new administration comes in. But there's certain classified employees at the state level that are not subject to that. and you can't, the new administration can't come in and just wipe them out. Then they'll file suit. We've had it in the Secretary of State's office where they fire people who should cost the state.
So we could go back and forth about hypothetical
Yeah.
all day long. So let's ask a direct question, Anthony. Do you believe you can defend the council's position if we so choose to enact this and somebody challenges it?
I can defend it. I don't know what the court.
Well, you never do.
Defend it.
I understand.
There's certainly good justification.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor, we have a second. Any further discussion? And I have to, I'm gonna say that there's, I can see Mr. Gokenhour's side, and I can see the other side as well.
I can too.
Because in Anthony's, you know, you hate to restrict the option of anybody running for office, and so I mean, to me, I like to see people, but at the same time, there have been court cases in the state of West Virginia where people have been retaliated against and fired, and the employee won because on the firing side of it. But it does make things, it can make things tough. So if there's no more discussion, all in favor on the motion, say aye. Aye. Nays?
Nay.
Nay. So the motion passes. All right. Moving on, need a motion to go into executive session for real estate matters.
So moved.
We are in real estate, executive session. out of executive session, no action will be taken. Mr. Barnhart,
Mr. President, move to recess.
we are recessed.